Facebook family and friends. This is Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour, and we are live. And I'm doing a special edition case today because I want to address a situation down in Florida. I have with me special guest, mental health advocate, guru, you would call him, PhD, Minister Fred Shaw. And as you all know, if you've been watching us, this is a topic that's dear to our hearts because of what our thoughts are about mental health. And I have a special interest in it because I have a son who is in this system. And again, I am Louise Hicks. We are live here. This podcast will also be put on YouTube, my YouTube channel, which is aimed, AIMED, the number 2 Purpose Radio, Aim to Purpose Radio. And today we're going to talk mental health, a cause of violence, unpredictable behavior, the Brendan Depa case in Florida railroaded, and I smell a rat, and I do smell a rat, because after watching this case is such a tragedy because it has to do with a teacher's aide being attacked and beaten by this 17-year-old, then 17-year-old, who is now 18-year-old and years old, I should say. And we're going to discuss this case because when I saw it, my son told me about it first. My son, who is a plumber in California, he was the first one that had seen it on YouTube. And then I saw a podcast by Dr. Umar Johnson, who was breaking it down. He is a doctor of psychology, and he broke it down. And I shared it with Minister Fred and wanted him to come on so that we could discuss this case, because I do smell a rat, and this could be my son, because I'll share with you all the dangers that my son has faced. And if it wasn't for me, my son could be a Brendan Depa. And that's why this case hit close to home to me when I saw Dr. Umar Johnson's podcast and when my son was telling me about the case. So with that said, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, because we discuss relevant content to our Black community. I'm not on here at now my age, 72, wasting time about a bunch of foolishness and nonsense like a lot of the content that's on here that has our community in disarray, I should say, because of the bad, toxic content that a lot of us are putting out here merely for money. And I'm not out here merely for money. I'm out here to help to elevate our community to a higher level of consciousness, because we need that. There are some bad behaviors. The content is garbage, a lot of it, and a lot of us are following garbage because we're still in that Willie Lynch mindset. And until we come out of that, our community will continue to be in disarray and turmoil. And it's up to us to take accountability and responsibility to help to combat a lot of this behavior, the nonsense that's holding many of us back. And then we wonder why we are in the state of we are in right now. And yes, we know it boils right down to the root cause of it: racism, slavery. And I'm not afraid, like I tell everybody, to speak up and speak out about it. I keep this cup handy because a lot of us are afraid to sneeze almost. And we got to come out of that brainwashed mentality. And as I've stated, and I state many times, I'm this mad Black woman, and that's motivated and determined to help to elevate our people. And today I am really sickened by what I saw on this video when we discuss it. And you can go to YouTube and look it up, because we're going to be on here about an hour, and I'm not going to share the video. It's very graphic, and you can go and find it. It's the Brendan, BRENDAN, or it might be BRENDEN, Depa, DEPA. And you can watch the video because it's very graphic. and you will see this attack on this teacher's aide. And they both are victims of this mental health prison. That's what I call it. And I'll tell you why I call it that. Because it's a prison system and it's by design and nobody is doing anything about it. So these two people, he, a victim, and this woman who was attacked is a victim of this system and that school system, the educational system, all of it. So again, my YouTube channel is AIMED, AIMED, the number 2, Purpose Radio. My website is www.louisehicks.com. You can go to my website and find all of my other social media platforms, that being my Facebook that I'm on now, Facebook, Lou Hicks, my Louise Hicks page. I have a Go Mental group. I have an Aim to Purpose book club group. I have an Aim to Purpose empowerment group. I have Instagram, I have Twitter, LinkedIn, all of my social media where I speak to elevate. I don't come out here with this foolishness and nonsense that's holding us back. And a lot of you, that's all you do, and you need to wake up and speak some energy, positive energy, and stop all this foolishness and negativity. So with that said, I want to introduce my special guest, Minister Fred Shaw, who has been on here many times with me and with our panel. And I will have Minister Fred Shaw to share with you a little bit about his background, because some of you may be the first time following or listening to my podcast. So Minister Shaw, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you for those who may be the first time hearing about Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show and for alerting me to this topic. I'm Reverend Frederick Shaw. I have been the president of the NAACP Inglewood South Bay for the last 4 years. I once was the president of the Compton branch. I'm an ex-Los Angeles County Sheriff deputy, so I know what is going on from both sides of the fence. I'm an author. I've written several books. I have, been in the who's who in America, Paul's who's who in America. So there's a lot of different things, but I would rather get into the topic at hand because I think this is a very serious topic. And what bothers me the most is the difference in the way people are being treated. One person can commit a crime and another person commit the same crime, but there's two different sentences. There's two different ways that people look at it. There's two different blaming and that is scary to me, that in this day and time we still have that going on.
I agree. And you know what it's all about? White privilege. And I speak up and I speak out about it. It's all about white privilege. And we're going to probably, I would like to have a part 2 because I'm going to follow this case. And the reason it's so dear to my heart, and my heart goes out to both Brendan and Miss Joan Nadish. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, because no one deserves to be brutally attacked. However, both of these people are victims. This young boy at the time, he was 17. He's a minor at the time. Now he's 18. However, the crime was committed when he was a boy. And we don't know what triggered him to go off like that for sure. Allegedly, it was involving a switch with a Nintendo. And my question would be, why was the Nintendo allowed in the classroom in the first place? They're supposed to be there to learn, not to have it. Why is a mentally challenged person, autistic person, not watched closer than what he was watched? I have so many questions. And also, you could say, I don't have a law degree, but I could have had one because I was going to go to law school. And I have practiced law on myself against the county of Los Angeles. So I'm no fool when it comes to law. I have done a lot of due diligence. I practiced law on myself against the county of Los Angeles for a discrimination case. I won my case against their attorneys, and I don't have a law degree. And there's a disclaimer here. I practice law on myself because you can go in pro per in the state of California, where Minister Shaw is, when he was talking about Inglewood and Compton. For those of you who might not know, that's in California, Inglewood, California, and Compton, California. Most of you probably know more about Compton because of the movie Straight Outta Compton. And I'm just appalled at what is happening with this case in Florida, because I mentioned I have a mentally challenged son who was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 14 and went on to battle depression, drug addiction, and he was going to be railroaded by the county of Los Angeles. However, and this is recent, just this past summer, I had to spend time in California to rescue my son from them trying to file some trumped up bogus charges against him. And I had to go to the head DA, his assistant. And I told them, I'll be damned if you're going to send my son to jail or prison when you just heard the side of somebody else, when they were non-Black, everybody involved except my son. And then they didn't even know, the person that you took as a witness didn't even know what went on. It was obvious because they're telling you they got to something on the tail end of it. So the two people involved, my son and another gentleman, non-Black, and then you're going to try to railroad my son. Of course, they dropped the charges when I got through with them, because this is ridiculous. And we have to have more Black people to come out and stop the foolish stuff you have on here, the content that's really not elevating us, it's derailing us, really, and speak of something that has some positivity to it. So when I heard about this case with Brendan Depa in Florida, in the Flagler County school system, and the school was called Matanzas High School. And what happened is, this boy at the time, 17, I guess a senior in high school, was it was alleged that the teacher's aide took his Nintendo Switch from him. And apparently he followed her outside and he attacked her. And the attack was on camera. It went viral. And after that, he was handcuffed, taken to jail. First, from what I read, he was charged as a juvenile. Then the judge changed it to an adult. Now, I found that very disturbing, because the same state, Florida, this woman, what was her name? Susan Lorenz, shot through her door and claimed she was threatened, killed this Black woman, A.J. Owens, and they didn't arrest her for about 5 or 6 days later, and then they charged her with manslaughter and trying to give her 10 years or less, or get her off completely. She's white, of course. And then here's this Black young boy who allegedly was raised by white parents, adopted. I don't know all the background details, so I'm looking to get more information, because I'm going to follow this case, because it's dear to my heart, because it could be my son that I've had to work and get him keep him from going to prison twice in the county of Los Angeles, when bogus charges was trumped up against him by this white so-called justice system, but I call it the injustice system. So I'm just so fed up and sick and tired of a lot of us sitting back, not saying anything, not doing anything, and always jumping on the bandwagon. Ben Crump, where are you? Al Sharpton, where are you? If the police had killed somebody, if let a white policeman kill somebody, all of you, Ben Crump, Al Sharpton, and those others who are out here walking the streets, running, why aren't you doing something about this? This is an autistic boy who knows what happened to him in that school. I heard that the school has had trouble. I read that as well. They've had trouble at that school in Florida, Matanzas High School in Flagler County, Florida. So I just wanted to bring Minister Shaw on here to get more insight on his perspective, because he is over the what is the task force called, Minister Shaw?
It's the CCHR Task Force Against Racism and Modern Day Eugenics.
Right, and that fits right into this topic, because it's nothing but racism. You're going to let a white woman go when she's killed somebody and go try to get her 10 years or less, and then you want to charge a mentally challenged who never got the help he needed, you're going to charge him as an adult when the crime occurred. He was 17, but you're going to let this white woman go. And the same thing happens over and over. Same here in Texas, down in Dallas with this Botham case. And the judge giving the woman a Bible and the brother hugging the criminal. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just sickening. So, Minister Shaw, give us your, and I'm upset about it really, because it could have been my son, because I know what I've gone through in California with my son. So give us your thoughts on this case, and what do you think, what are your thoughts on this injustice? Because that's all it is racism and injustice, because we have two separate systems, one for whites when they commit crime and one for blacks when blacks commit crime in this country, this injustice system.
Well, one of the reasons that we have found that we can't seem to solve this issue of racism in the judicial system is because the system itself was never designed for justice for African Americans. It was to protect white people. The system has been there a long time. It has been in use, but this goes back way when I steal a car, I get Grand Theft Auto, a white kid could steal the same car and he would get joyriding. Those are two different things. When you set it up to where crack cocaine had a different sentencing than regular cocaine, the only difference is who predominantly used it. You start seeing that these hidden disparities that basically leads to the injustice that we see. Now, number one, we hear all of this talk about mental health and we need mental health, but with all of that, the person didn't know that when you're dealing with an autistic kid or something, you have to be very careful how you take things from them. Okay? They can trigger even more easier than we do. So I don't get why she did that. And I'm like you going to look into it because I heard there may have been more issues to this, or their relationship may be deeper than we know. Maybe they've been going at it before. She had a history of doing things like this. I don't know. His behavior was totally unacceptable. But how come if mental health is as good as they claim they are, they couldn't predict that this could happen? Okay, he had already had several things go on where he attacked some people, he had did some things, and he is autistic. So what that leads me to possibly believe is that they were putting him on certain medications. And on your show, we have talked about how these psychotropic drugs cause violence and suicide. So therefore, if you're giving him the drug that creates the behavior that causes him to act in a certain way, then how do you blame him? And don't indict the people who gave him the drugs. If I was a street drug dealer, and I gave a kid a drug and that kid went out and killed people in a car accident, they would track that to me and put me in jail. So maybe we need to take a look at this, because this is not just systemic to this young man. We now have airplane pilots deciding to commit suicide in the air that are on these drugs. You got law enforcement officers doing their beats carrying a gun that are on these drugs. So we have to start demanding an investigation into these drugs. And I want to say, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical. Pharmaceuticals also create the drugs that eliminate infections and kill bacteria and save our lives. And they have the drugs that also keep your heart beating. They have drugs that do very positive things. But for some reason, when we get a psychiatric drug, this is a cash cow that keeps repeating itself, and that you give him this drug and he has this symptom. You give him that drug, he has another symptom. You give them another drug, and so it keeps playing to the money. So with this kid, I would like for someone, if I can, I'll try to reach Dr. Umar Johnson. We have
Okay.
been on radio shows, and we've been on a radio show together, and we've done in-person speaking engagement together. And we had a very friendly relationship during those times and kind of hung out a little bit. And he is a brilliant man. I know that they have
Yes.
issues with,
Oh,
but he is
yes.
a brilliant man. He tells it like it is. He's explained what they're doing to these kids. And this kid that you're talking about seemed to have come out of the system. I think he was an adopted kid or something. Or he was taken in under foster care. So the chances of him being drugged and stuff as a child are great. I can't say because I
Yes.
wasn't there if he was or not, but I can say to you the chances are greater that he has been drugged than he has not been drugged. Because I owned group homes for boys, 24-hour care facilities for probation kids. And we were one of the few who would not drug the kids with psychotropic drugs. But most of the group homes would because you got paid way more money. So, you're looking at a system that doesn't even stand on its own. They have to give incentives for people to even use them. You got to put the money there, and then they use that. They'll pay a mother on welfare more money if her kids are diagnosed ADHD and all of that kind of stuff. They'll pay her more money. So when times is rough, it's easier to just put the kid on medication and labeling, get more money. What we don't know is that label can follow him all of his life. And
Yes.
we've seen where criminals have gotten into it with law enforcement. First thing that they say on the news, oh yeah, well he got caught smoking weed when he was in high school. This is 5 years later, but they'll bring that up. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
only reason why I'm, you know.
It's criminal what this injustice in mental health prison is doing to people that are mentally challenged. And I'm not talking hearsay. I'm talking about what I know because I've been dealing with it since my son was 14 years of age, diagnosed with a rare bone cancer, went on to uh, just involve himself in illegal drugs, alcohol, uh, just bizarre behavior. And he was on those psychotropic drugs. They definitely altered his behavior. It was bad enough that he was going through cancer at 14, and then he was put on Zoloft. And from that point on, he had hard other drugs. Now he's still on some psychotropic drugs, and I'm working to help him get off of it. And one of the problems, no disrespect to some of these psychiatrists, because some of them do work within ethics, but there are some psychiatrists that are insulting. I've had them to deal with. Like I said, I've been dealing with this for over 25 years. So I'm speaking from the perspective of uh, my own personal dealings within the mental health system. And I worked for the County of Los Angeles in the Department of Health Services, where we interacted with the mental health department for 32 years. So I'm speaking from an expert position on what I have encountered. And this system is still dealing with the antiquated laws of back in when the Latterman, I can't think of the rest of part of it, but it's still dealing with those laws. They're antiquated. They are not up to standards of what we need now. And nobody is doing anything to do, they're not doing anything to help with this mental health crisis that we have. And I rest her soul, Senator Dianne Feinstein, who may she rest in peace, who passed away. I used to write to her and Barbara Boxer when she was in the Senate as well. And those people did nothing. they would send me some bogus letters, and when I challenged them and call and challenge their little whoever they would have in charge in their office, and I tell them what I thought, and they give me some bogus, oh well, that letter wasn't meant for you. I said, oh yes it was, it had my name on it and I'm the one that wrote you. I said, but it's because I'm challenging you and you don't know what to say and how to deal with it, so you need to let me speak to somebody else. And then they hand me over to some other nonchalant person that could have cared less. These politicians are trash, all of them. We really need to, majority of them, I'll say 99.9% of the politicians are just there, particularly the Democrats that I call Demorats, because we've been voting for them as Black people. I haven't for years and years and years. And what have they done? They come and get your vote. They don't do anything about this mental health system. So this young boy at the time of the murder, who is classified as a man now, he can go to war, but he can't drink until he's 21, but he can go to war and fight for this country. And our young men are usually the one that's put on the front line when they do go to war. And a lot of the whites can get their kids sent to Canada and wherever they want to send them to keep them out of the war. So I'm speaking from being here in this system 72 years, seeing it, going through it with my son, working in it. And I know it's a worthless piece of crap. That's all it is. It's a money thing. And I'm not against pharmaceutical drugs either, because sometimes you need them. But for the most part, it's all about the money. And they got these people in these so-called rehabilitation homes and so forth. They need to shut most of them down because they're just there for the money too. And they're not doing anything but giving these people pills. Like you said, Minister Shaw, you didn't give your patients that
Kids.
were in your home, you didn't give those kids a psychotropic drug. But I'm telling you, when I would go to see my son in the place where he was, those people would be walking around like zombies. And it's pathetic. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is the thing, and this is why this fight is so important. When you track down most of the things that are wrong with our society, you can find mental health fingerprints on it. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's the educational system, the decline in the church. I can show through our museum where they actually plotted to take out the church. See,
Oh,
and
yes.
people don't get, I'll say that, and people don't get it, where they actually devised the plan and announced that the two easiest to attack was the church and the educational system. Once you take down the spiritual values and you take away a person's ability to truly learn, then you can enslave them. And if we know it or not, most of us, including whites, are still enslaved in this country.
Yes.
It's,
True.
yeah, they don't see the rawhide whip of the overseer or the cotton that got to be picked. But that ain't all that talks about slavery. Slavery is like being caught in another person's space and time and can't really do nothing about it. See, you don't have to work a slave as long as you have a slave. So the thing is that we have to understand that this field of mental health, they cannot improve the behavior of these kids. I saw the attack that the kid did. It was horrendous. Then they said he had other issues. Well, what did you do about those issues? What did you institute to help him? Because we see evidently you didn't help him because he went on to attack another person.
Absolutely. They didn't do anything.
What kind of mental health training are you doing that you don't even know? If you've been around an autistic kid or something and you go to take something from them, they'll try to fight.
Oh, yes.
They can trigger like that. Well, I'm not even in that field. So if I know that, how come they don't know that? Well, the reason is what we talked about the PH do. Because when I ran across kids like that in my group home, I learned their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned what would work and what wouldn't work. Because they were there 24 hours a day. And so the thing is that There is no science to the current psychiatric system. They do not have the ability, really, to help your child. What they can do that may benefit you is put him somewhere, and hopefully we can have him be safe. But for the most part, I don't know how long your son has been in the system, but has it improved? Has he changed? Is he out? Is it? See, once we start looking at things like this, what is the result of all of this treatment, and how much money have they made on him to give you no result, to not have given you a child that is back to the normal state you know he was at one time? How come after all these years they can't produce that? Because they
Absolutely.
don't have the solution.
No, they don't have the solution. And I will tell you one of the problems, but they don't have the solution, because I'm speaking from firsthand knowledge and experience. With my son, I had to go through hell and high water to get him under my conservatorship. If I wasn't the mother out here fighting for my son would be could have been in this situation, because we're talking a 42-year-old now versus Brendan Depa, who is 17, was 17 at the time of this tragic act that happened with this teacher's aide. And my son is 42 now. He was 14 when he was diagnosed with the cancer. And I've been fighting this system for years and years and years. He's been under conservatorship. This is the third time. This is what's wrong with the system. Each time that my son starts to get better, because I have to fight the system, even the institutions that he's in, I'm fighting the system. Prime example, my son wanted to go out with, this is recent, I'm talking recent stuff now, wanted to go out with my family on Father's Day so that he could socialize with some of the family members he hadn't seen in years. They tell me at the institution he's in right now that the head psychiatrist had to make the decision whether he could go out for 8 hours with them, because they would not be able to bring him back in time. He was already elevated to a pass of 4 hours, I believe. And so I said, if she has to make the final decision, let me speak with her. This psychiatrist calls me up. I speak with her. She tells me no, because she said the committee members said that he could not go. I know they made concessions. They made concession there for my son to be moved to another location when a patient there, who has not just attacked my son, but has attacked other patients, knocked my son in the head, where I had to send him to emergency. Thank God he was okay, according to what they said, his symptoms, how he's symptomatic and asymptomatic and all that, how he felt, that he was okay. But he was having headaches and everything for days. And guess what? They didn't do anything to this young man. He's been going, my son wasn't the first person he attacked. I filed a police report on him, and I called the Long Beach Police Department. Do you think they've called me back? That happened this year. They have not even called me back. I've called them, and they haven't. No, they're not going to do anything to him. He's a non-white, of course. If he was black and doing all that kind of stuff, they probably had him in prison by now, or tried to put him there if he didn't have somebody to stand up for him, like I stood up for my son. But it's a double standard here when it comes to black versus other ethnicities, not just white, any ethnicity versus black. It's like we are treated worse than anybody. And black women, we are treated worse than any women in America and could be on the planet. I'm speaking from experience on jobs, in housing, everywhere we go. And I've said some stories about discrimination that I've gone through on jobs here in Texas, jobs in California, and I just don't take it. I speak up, I document, and that's one of the problems. We don't do our due diligence ourselves because we're too busy following this social media NS and BS. A lot of us won't follow anything like this. We'd rather go and follow some drunks out here drinking in their podcast, talking a bunch of food talk, calling each other all kinds of names, listen to this rap that's out here degrading women and preaching about drugs, going into the community, killing one another. A lot of us, we are enslaved in that Willie Lynch syndrome, so deep rooted in us. And the cause stem from slavery, and it's by design to keep us there. Some of us are waking up now, but this is what happened to my own son. If it hadn't been for me, they would have had him in prison by now. Twice I went to his rescue, and he had public defenders. And I go to the public defender, I go to the top, the DA. I asked to speak to whatever that DA's name down in LA County, and he put me on his office, put me on his next in line. And believe me, when we got through, my son's case was dismissed because I wasn't having it. I said, because you don't have all the facts. I was going to go to law school. I know a lot more about the law than many people that are in law and have gone to law school. So I'd be skeptical of some of these attorneys out here representing me. And I'm skeptical for this young man, whoever the attorney is representing him. I understand it's a white attorney representing him. And he's asking him to take what do you call it? Oh, you on silent. You on silent. Unmute.
He's asking him probably to take a plea bargain.
No contest. That's what he's trying to get him to do. Yeah, plea bargain. And that's a bunch of nonsense, because this boy at the time is a victim of the whole system. He's a victim from the federal government on down to the mental health, the school district, the educational system. He's a victim, just like my son is a victim. I even wrote to the White House and sent it certified to this Democrat that's up there now. What's his name? Your president, and your vice president. The Democrats that are in there now.
You talking about Biden? You talking about
him?
Joe Biden?
Sleepy Joe. I wrote letters to him. I wrote it to the governor of California, where I pay my taxes on my home in California. I wrote to the governor Newsom, certified letters. Vice President Kamala Harris, who is nothing but a fake and a phony as well, like Biden. She loves putting Black people behind bars, because she had to put a lot of them behind bars in California, and she does not do anything. She told Black people when she was running for, I think at the time she was running for president herself or whatever she was running for. Oh no, I'm not going to do anything specifically for Black people. You can go on YouTube and see it. But as soon as they attacked those Asians down there in Georgia, I believe that was the state it was, she and Biden hurried up and put in an executive order specifically to protect Asians. No president, to my knowledge, has ever put in an executive order to protect Black people. And I know a lot of this stuff is us not taking responsibility, accountability, and I call a spade a spade. We need to take accountability and responsibility and stop a lot of the NS and BS. And Joe Biden telling somebody, if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. And a lot of Black people still vote. And I wouldn't vote for nobody that insults me like that. I didn't vote for him or Crump. Not Crump, whatever his name is, Trump. No, I didn't vote for either one of them. And to see this young boy at the time being railroaded like this, and in the state of Florida, they're gonna let this white woman who shot through the door, and talking about she was threatened, and they don't have enough evidence, they're saying, to charge her with a hate crime when she's been out there calling Black kids niggers because they're out there playing, and shoot a Black woman when you've harassed all these kids because they can't play, because you're so evil and hateful, and you can't charge her with a hate crime, and you're trying to get her off, but then you want to railroad this autistic, mentally challenged person who's to say he wasn't bullied at that school? And then he did. That school has a lot of problems from what I read. Allegedly, it has a whole lot of problems at that school, which is called Matanza High School in Flagler County, Florida. And Florida, the governor there, Santos, look who's the governor over that state. He wants to say that Black people, what did he say about us as Black people? That we learned a lot of skills from slavery. Yeah, I said, this man is an idiot to go out here, and he's running the state. No wonder this is happening in Florida. It's craziness. And I'm just fed up with the whole system. And that's why I talk about it and hope to help our people to elevate themselves. And go ahead. I know you want to say something, but this is highly upsetting to me.
No, and it should be. And it's time that we all begin to take a stand on this stuff, but we can't do it from our knees. We have to stand up as a people, work together, cooperate with one another. This whole rap thing where we call the women B's and H's and all this stuff, this was a funded campaign to get our young people to create this stuff to be able to go into the prison industrial complex. So
Yes.
it's like, so we have to be able to recognize when we being set up, because we think some of this stuff originated. Like I was talking to some people one time, they said, well, this is our culture. Well, who told you that? Since
It's
when?
not my culture.
You know, when did this become your culture, and who told you that? Oh, you know who told them that? All them cats on those records talking that foul stuff, degrading women, doing it. That's who told them that.
Of
It wasn't
course.
nothing they from their fathers. It ain't nothing they learned from their ancestors or their heroes. This is all of the stuff that is destroying our community. But just to get back, because I don't want us to run out of time on this, when we see a young man who is mentally challenged, and the system knows he's mentally challenged, and they're unable to help him, their tendency, since Black people are considered animals anyway, their tendency is to put them away.
Yes.
And old days and lock the key, lose the key. Remember they say lock the door and lose the key? Well,
Yes.
that's what we're looking at when we see how a Black woman can be murdered and he can attack. Now, if white people in the same condition receive the same penalty that they're trying to do to him, I wouldn't have a word to say. It was a
Me
vicious
neither.
attack and stuff. But what you're fighting is not necessarily what they're doing to him, is how they have not done it to others. And
That's it.
times Black people don't articulate correctly the fact that they're looking at injustice in the system, and then people get the idea we want to tear down the system. No, we just want the system to be fair. And if
That's
the
it.
system is fair, then I can't complain, you can't complain. If they say you doing 30 years for crack cocaine, and this white guy and this Asian guy and this Hispanic guy all get 30 years for crack cocaine based on the similarities of the case, you know, I think there should be differences if a person has messed up one time or if they've messed up 6 times. But if they're all being equal, then everybody should get equal time. And I
Yes.
don't, the government don't seem to be able to fix that.
They don't want to fix it. It's by design because they want, it's just like reparations. Same difference. All of this goes right back to this society wanting to keep us in last economic place because they don't want to see, they know we are brilliant, melanated people, because if we weren't, we would not be where we are today in spite of all of the racism that exists in this country, them burning down towns when Black people came out of uh, chains, because we're still enslaved to a certain extent. It's just a different template now. So when Black people came out of the chains and elevated themselves, built wealth within their own neighborhoods and cities and towns, white people came, the white supremacists came along and destroyed it, like they did Tulsa, Oklahoma. That wasn't the only place in 1921. And the same stuff is still happening here right now, where people look to white privilege to prevail. Prime example, they did a take on 60 Minutes. Like I said, I'm 72. I've been around a long time and I've seen a lot. I got a PhD in experiencing different races, situations that I've had to deal with. And I speak up and speak out about it. 60 Minutes did a piece some time ago in California where they set it up where white kids would be outside this establishment at the wee hours in the morning, oh, just playing all kind of music and just having a good time. The police passed by there multiple times, did nothing, said nothing. they set a group of black kids out there, it's all staged, to do the same thing. Had their little music going, just having a good time. The police couldn't wait to stop and just shut it down. They did nothing to the white kids. Prime example, I've been on jobs where white managers like me walking around doing nothing. And here I am and another black person on the job. We're being harassed, just a hostile environment for us. And we are probably the one of the most intelligent over the ones that they let walk around and do nothing. And I said, I'm speaking up about it. Same in California, same here in Texas, where I am now. I mean, this stuff goes on. It doesn't matter where you live. It goes on all the time. And they figure if you're black, you're not supposed to be doing this. Another example, I mean, I could go on and on and on about it. When my ex-husband worked for the city of Long Beach, and I worked for the county of Los Angeles, head of a department appointed based on my merits because I passed a test. A white gentleman didn't pass the test. And he didn't, my ex was telling them about he was happy his wife had gotten a promotion over department, all that. And the white folks gonna ask him, is your wife white? I'm saying, no, they did. And and my staff, when they would go out and they are dressed in their professional attire, and white people come up and ask them, oh, do you know when the instructor is going to come? Now, my staff is the instructor, but these white people can't accept that. They cannot see us in an elevated position because their white privilege overtakes their common sense. And it's so prevalent here today, 21st century. Here we are in the same situation. And that's why I talk about the Democrats, because we vote for them over and over and over. And if they were fair, like you said, and this mental health system would be fixed, all this money they're sending to Ukraine and where else they're sending it to? Iraq. Israel sending all this money, but they don't have money for reparations for our foreparents working, and black people going out voting for these Democrats all the time. And Joe Biden and his cronies, they sending all this money. Israel sending money to Ukraine, billion. They creating money, but they can't create any money for reparation and to fix this dang mental health system. And I am so pissed off when I read this, because this could have been my son. If it hadn't been for me, my son would be facing probably some type of felony charges because of some bogus non-white establishments trumped up charges against him because they're going to protect their own in the institution he was in. And it's just sad when you see this stuff.
But even more than that is it's easy for us to point out and look at individual cases and how they did us personally and stuff, but the whole system has to be addressed.
Yes.
And the thing is that you're hitting on something that you might, well, I think you're aware of it, but when people just give their vote away, then, then the people who get the vote and don't have to do anything from take you for granted. So,
yes.
So we look, and right now, the whole campaign of the Democratic Party is the idea of getting rid of Trump. It's not promising us anything. Now, the governor of California has promised that they're going to do reparations. The moment they talk about setting up studies, I get suspicious. Because if you don't know history, and you're the governor of California, and you don't know the history of what African Americans have gone through, and the idea that $1.3 million is what he's talking about to any person in California that can prove that they are descendants of slaves and came over on the ship, that they would get $1.3 million. However, what has been done to the African American is different from what they've done to anybody else.
Absolutely.
We have been stifled economically. We have been left illiterate through our educational systems. They have put crack cocaine in our communities.
Yes.
At what point? They had discriminated, and we couldn't even buy property in certain areas, even if we had the money. So when they talk about reparations, it's almost impossible to calculate what the African American
What's
in this
old?
is owed. Okay.
Absolutely.
You know, I have a real good friend. She's a white lady, and she was talking to me one day, and I said, "You have a great heart, but it's hard for you to believe what African Americans go through on a daily basis."
Thank you.
You see, and and I remember one thing that was so interesting when I was young man, newly married, um, and I had bought a house at 21 years old. I had bought a house, and the house had gotten equity, and I was pulling the equity out. And the guy said, "What do you need it for?" I said, "I want to set up a business," and things like that. And for some reason, the money couldn't get to me. My father told me, "Tell him that you change your mind, you want to buy a car and you want to go on vacation." The money was there in 3 days.
See?
See, you can get a home loan, you can get a student loan, you can get a bunch of loans, but you can't get a business loan.
Oh, I know you can't. I tried
And
it.
so the thing is, when they
We
talk
can't
about,
get one, but people can come over here from other countries and go right down there and get business loans and start companies. We can't get one. And another thing, a thought that when you were talking about studies, they want to study reparations. You didn't study anything when you were giving that money to Ukraine, who never voted for you. You haven't studied Israel enough to say you're going to put all this billions, you're printing money, 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 money. You didn't study those migrants when Abbott here in Texas shipped them on to Chicago and Florida. Did you do a study before you gave them all the room and board and hotels and want to renovate buildings for them? Did you do a study for that? And they haven't given you one vote. We've been in this mess almost 500 years. And whatever we built, white people, supremacists have destroyed it. It's not that black people were sitting around twiddling our thumbs, doing nothing for ourselves. There are some misfits in our community, and I'm with Dr. Claude Anderson. We need to deal with the misfits in our community. We have to deal with them because we don't need that kind of dead weight on our shoulders for those of us who are working to bring our people who are enslaved in the mindset in that Willie Lynch syndrome. We need to have an elevation of a higher level of consciousness. Nobody's asking to go do a study on these what was that other country, they Venezuela, I think, or wherever it is, where they're helping them too. They didn't
well,
do
they
any studies on any of these people, and they haven't given any votes, and haven't their ancestors didn't do any work over here, beaten, raped, castrated, murdered, dragged, and mule whipped and everything, and they're still
well,
doing it. It's just a different template, that's all.
well, I say, come back to me with money for Ukraine after you didn't handle the people sleeping under bridges in our country, people
Thank
who were
you.
sleeping on the sidewalks and people afraid to walk by them, people on psychiatric drugs stabbing people in the streets. When you put some money there and you handle that, then let's go out and protect the rest of the world. But why are we out here in the name of democracy defending all these other people and you not showing democracy right here at home? You're not working to handle the problems and situations that we have right here at home. And I'm going to just tell you this. It was Einstein who said, in order for the forces of evil of this world, I'm not going to quote him exactly, but in order for
Mm-hmm.
the forces of evil of this world to win, is for enough of the good people to do nothing. And that is what is stopping us. We can call Trump's name out, but how many people are pushing their kids to be lawyers instead of rappers? We can
Thank
call
you.
we can call out Al Sharpton, but how many people want to get out there and get criticized and ridiculed and stuff? I'm not saying you're good or bad. I'm just saying is that he's there.
Mhm.
And look at all of the people who tell me, well, what y'all gonna do about such and such? What what about you? You think you
Thank
might
you.
be leave a hand, lend a helping hand? You know, but
Mhm.
that I just did a show and a guy with a PhD. Well, what are you doing about this mental health thing? And blah, blah, blah. And by the time I got through, he said, well, you should be applauded greatly for your efforts and what you do. This is the problem. He's asking me, what am I doing? You got the PhD. How come you not making no change out here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you because that's what I tell people too when they go to talk and, oh, all of this is going on. Well, what are you doing to help it? Are you speaking up, speaking out? Are you mentoring some young people? I've been mentoring young people all of my life. When I was in my 20s, I was mentoring young people, helping them to get an idea of their critical thinking skills in their head to know that you can make something of yourself no matter where you came from. And I've been doing commentaries on social media since I've been on here. I think I started out on here in 2006, 7, 8, 9, somewhere back then. I've been doing commentaries to people out here making excuses, our people. And I said, I came from a separated, I mean, a divorced family, broken home. But that didn't stop me. I put myself through college and went in 4 years right out of high school against the odds in California, where foreigners could come to California and they were not citizens. They could get a free education in college. Me coming from out of state, no, I couldn't. I'm classified out of state, but non-citizens could come and get an education off of my tax dollar because I'm paying taxes. And I think that's still going on in California. So it's ridiculous to say that what you can't do because I did it. And I was able to elevate myself because of how I was raised. And a lot of these parents are not raising these kids. I don't know what happened to Brendan Depa's family, but I intend to do this show. We're going to wrap it up because we're going to come back and we're going to do a follow up. And again, everyone, I'm Louise Hicks, your host of this podcast, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And I chose to do this show today titled uh, A Cause of Violence, Unpredictable Behavior, the Brendan Depa case in Florida, railroaded. And I smell a rat, and I do smell a rat because he is a victim, and so is this woman, Joan Nadish, whom he attacked. They both are victims of this society's mental health prison, the educational system, it's just from the high level on down, from the all the branches of government, all of them, the judicial, the what are they, the three branches, legislative, judicial, and what's the other one? My mind is going 50 miles an hour now, or maybe more.
Well, all the branches of our,
All the branches.
yeah.
Yes. All of them are guilty, including the educational system, the mental health system. They are the criminals. They need to be thrown in jail instead of Brendan Depa. And even they asked this woman, I read it, that she stated that she had nothing to say, but she was feeling that he should not be given any leniency. In essence, from what I read, that's the perspective I got from what she said. And I'm saying, I know it was wrong and what he did to her, of course, but you got to keep in mind, has he had any therapy for his situation? He was raised by allegedly some white parents who adopted him. Where are his biological parents? What happened? Why was he given away? How was he raised? There's so many questions that need some answers to determine. And this judge, even with him trying him as an adult, he could give him uh, a year, less probation, whatever. But in Florida, that hateful, evil administration up there in charge now, Santos, he doesn't even want Black history to be taught in schools because he's saying we as Black people got some skills out of slavery. I said, how dumb is he to think? He's not dumb. That's all his hate and his white supremacist mindset. I don't know how I know how they elected him as governor because many of them, I guess, that voted for him, they probably just like him. evil and hateful. And until we bring some love into this world, it's gonna get worse instead of better. And I always go back to that biblical 2 Peter 1:7 that says God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And I'm going to exercise mine because I'm not fearful to speak up. And YouTube will censor you. They'll take your stuff off of YouTube if you're speaking of some knowledge and good sense. But when these rappers gets on here and they talk all this nonsense, calling us bitches and hoes and advocating drugs in our community and killing one another, oh, YouTube is not going to censor that. But and
That's part
Facebook too. I've been put in Facebook prison, and I know you said it too, Minister Shaw. But they don't censor that kind of stuff because it's something negative against us as Black people, and they love it. Because they are white supremacists themselves, and that's why we need our own. And that's why I encourage our people to elevate yourself by becoming entrepreneurs. Teach your children our history so they can use their critical thinking skills to create their own businesses. We need our own schools. We need our own banks. We need our own educational institution, as I said, schools. We just need our own. We have to elevate ourselves. Nobody out here is going to elevate us but us. And I'm going to follow this Brendan Depa case because it's close to home to me, because I have a Brendan Depa. My son David Reed has been in the same situations where they've tried to railroad him, and I intervened and brought it home to the people in the authorities in LA. And for Biden, Harris, and the governor of California, none of them have answered my letters. And I know they got them because I sent them certified. Somebody got them, but I'm sure they probably didn't put them in their hands because they don't care. They love this because it's money driven. And I pray that this Brendan Depa does not go sitting up in prison 40 or 50 years. And this woman, Susan Lawrence, who shot this Black woman through her door and talking about she's threatening, calling these kids niggers and all of that. And they said they don't have grounds to charge her with a hate crime. And they are letting her off with 10 years or less, maybe give her probation. And this is all happening in Florida, all of it. So you tell me that there's no such thing as white privilege and white supremacists? No, it's heartbreaking to me. And I'm just fed up. So we're going to have a second. And again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host of this podcast, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And this show just hit home to me today because of what I've gone through with my son, who is a Brendan Depa as well. And you can go to my YouTube channel, AIMED, AIMED, the number 2 Purpose Radio, my website, www.louisehicks.com. I'm an award-winning author, my best-selling book I'm going to get back in circulation soon. It chronicles the challenges that I faced with my son, who was Brendan Depa in so many words, just a different diagnosis. And it has been heartbreaking for me to read this story, and my heart goes out to him and this woman, Joan Nadish. But a lot of white people, they need to start thinking about it because, like you say, a lot of them enslaved too. And I guess they don't know they're enslaved by the elite and the people that run this country, the powers that should never be. They just they don't realize it. I guess they're not thinking, and a lot of us got to come out of our bad behavior and start unifying, as you said. We got to start doing that. So with that said, I want Dr. PhD, can you give us some closing remarks? And we're going to come back and do this follow up on Brendan Depa. And you said you're going to get in touch, if you can, with Dr. Umar Johnson. You've been on stage with him, you know him. And if you can, please do, because when I heard him speak about this case, like I said, my son told me about it too. And I was just heartbroken when I read the story for both victims, Brendan Depa and Joan Nadish, the teacher's aide that he attacked, because both of them are victims of this society. So give us some final thoughts and we'll close the show and we'll come back. When can you come back so we can follow up on this? Are you gonna, are you gonna try and get in touch with Dr. Umar Johnson this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get to him, but we can come back on any time you want to. If you want to try to do it next week or whatever, I can't guarantee. I think I have his number. If I don't, then it's gonna be real difficult. I think in the book he signed for me, he actually put his actual phone number. But I'll research that and check it out and see. I just want
And
to
I
say
think
that.
I have his number too. I think I have it as well because he gave it out on one of the shows I was listening to. And if you don't, I'm going to look for it and I'll send you what I have because I think I have it
Okay,
as well.
okay, and then I most definitely will call him from there.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to him on it. He's one of the bright minds that we do need to help stay out there because he comes with a truth that most of us don't ever get a chance
Absolutely.
to see. I just want to say to the audience that we must be diligent in our efforts to elevate our people. And one of the things that we seem to do is we seem to desire our comfort more than our freedom.
Mm-hmm.
When you become too comfortable, then you no longer free. The price of freedom is constant alertness and a constant willingness to fight back. When we lose that, when we worry more about facing disapproval, disagreement, and displeasure than we do for being right and fighting for justice and standing up for that which should perpetuate society into its future of positiveness. When we sell out our people, our culture, our religions, I would hate to say it, I'm a minister. There are a lot of people out there, if you came with the right price, that would deny God to his face. So,
Yes.
so what we must do is not find the loudest voice in the room, find the truest voice in the room. With that, if anybody wants to know where I get my information and stuff, go to cchrint.org, cchrint.org. If you want to know more about the task force that Ms. Hicks alluded to, then email me at fshawjr@yahoo.com. That's fshawjr@yahoo.com. Put Louise Hicks or Aim to Purpose Radio in the subject line, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. With that, God bless you all, and I hope something was said that will change your mindset. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, not keeping the
Absolutely.
same junk in there that's been there over and over again.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with you. And I was looking for that. Oh, here it is. I keep this book handy because I tell everybody, particularly our people, read this book, The Willie Lynch Letter and the Making of a Slave. Some say it's fictitious. I don't care if it is. It's the truth because it tells why we have been an enslaved mindset because this is by design for almost 500 years. This Willie Lynch letter, which is one of the reasons our minds are enslaved, the many of us. And we need to do some due diligence. Stop listening to all of this garbage and nonsense on social media because these people are making money and laughing all the way to the bank, and you are not getting anything but more messed up in the brain. That's all you're getting because they're not helping you. The same with some of these rappers out here that's spewing all of this filth about us Black women and killing up one another, drugs in our community. We of all people, we've suffered more atrocities than anybody on this planet and anybody in America, and we're still going through it. So we need to get a grip on our own responsibility and accountability. And with that said, please get this book. You can read it in probably less than 30 minutes, an hour, if you're maybe a little bit slow reader, because sometimes I take my time and I'll read through. But read this book, The Willie Lynch Letter and the Making of a Slave, and you all will see the why. Because until you get to the root cause of why many of us are stuck on stupid, you're going to stay stuck on stupid, and it's by design. This is what white privilege is all about. They want you to stay stuck on stupid, and it's by design. So let's come together and unify. Have a vision, have faith, have hope, have some knowledge, and take some action to elevate yourself to a higher level of consciousness. That's what we have to do in order to bring ourselves out of this foolishness and nonsense that we are perpetuating in our own Black community.
That's right.
And with that said, as I always leave you, and we're going to come back, we're going to see if we can get in touch with Dr. Umar Johnson, since Minister Shaw here has a personal relationship. He's met him before and everything. I've never met him, but I did hear the show, and my son, as I said, mentioned and told me about this situation too. And we're going to follow this, and I'm going to see what I can do to help this young man and hope for healing for this family that he attacked. Joan Nadish, I wish their family the best, because nobody should be attacked like that. However, he's a victim just like she is. In fact, he's more so of a victim because he was adopted, and look, it appears he's never gotten any help. So we're going to follow this story, and we're going to be back next week, and we're going to talk about it some more. And I may come in and talk about it even before me and Minister Shaw get together. If I find out some more information, I may come in during the week and share with you what I know about it. And until then, remember, I always tell you, your power lies within you. Let it loose, because your destiny is your command. And get you some rest, Minister, because it seems like you're about as tired as I am.
Well, maybe, you know, one of the things, I have neuropathy, and it causes pain at night.
I
And
got you.
A lot of times I'll go days with less than 3 hours sleep a day.
Oh my goodness.
And so last night I had that going on, and I didn't get to sleep till about 5 this morning, and then was up at 7, fell back to sleep, was up at 10, and haven't made it back for a nap yet. And so,
well, now you can go.
I apologize to the people on the live stream, but I'm dealing with some medical issues due to the diabetes I have. So anyway, but
well, thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge and expertise in spite of you being ill and not feeling well. Then I appreciate that. And I hope you feel better by the time we do our next show. Hopefully you will be feeling better and everything. So get you some rest, well needed. And I do the same thing. I be up late sometimes working on different things. I'm working on a master class right now that I'm going to be doing virtually. So at any rate, good night, everybody. And thank you all for joining us. This show will be put on YouTube shortly. As soon as we get done, I'm going to put it on YouTube, and you can watch it there as well. And be sure and subscribe. Aim to Purpose. That's AIMED, the number 2 radio purpose show, Aim to Purpose radio show, and my website, www.louisehicks.com. And we'll see you all soon. And thank you, Minister Shaw. Get you some rest. Have a good one. Good night, everybody, and much love to everybody. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all of your support. Bye-bye. Good night.